These also have, when we change our diet, there's an impact on a community and a hospital system. This was a project done at Geisinger Health. They identified individuals that had a hemoglobin A1C, type 2 diabetes that was poorly controlled, but they also had some food insecurity. They determined that this population of people inside of their healthcare system resulted in about $8,000 to $12,000 per month in expenses. And so they decided they were going to invest $3,000 to $4,000 per year in food for this population of people and education. They put together a comprehensive team of people from the hospital, including health coaches, nurses, pharmacists, doctors, and health coaches, to take this population of people and help them restore their quality of life. They found in a trial that the initial group of 37 patients reduced their A1Cs from 9.6 to 7.5, which was corresponded to a 40% decrease in the risk of death and serious consequences in just 1 year. The mean healthcare costs decreased by 80% from $240,000 per member per year to $48,000. Incredible. And they predicted on average a savings of about $8,000 to $12,000 per year for 1% reduction in A1C across the entire population. But again, it just shows the incredible potential for changing everything by helping people learn how to cook, prepare, and eat healthy plant-based foods. And finally, stepping out into a little bigger picture, what is the impact of eating more plants and the impact of actually growing more plants on our world that we're living in and the world that we're actually stewarding for the next generation? So this was a study that showed the impact of our current animal-based production of food around the world. It's the largest study to date done in 2018, looked at 38,700 farms from 119 countries. And they found that more than 80% of the farmland today globally is used for livestock. And it only produces 18% of the calories and 37% of the protein. A huge disproportionate use of land for calories and protein. But we also see the impact of that animal agriculture on greenhouse gas emissions, on water pollution, air pollution, and freshwater withdrawals. The conclusion of the study, the lead researcher from Oxford said, agriculture is a sector that spans all the multitude of environmental problems. So if we don't get our plates right, we're not growing the right plants for the plates, we are dramatically impacting the environment. This is a study looking at the regenerative impact from sustainability. I like the word regenerative more than sustainability versus health score. And we can see that the vegan diet has the greatest potential for improving the environment and improving health at the same time. Animal agriculture also creates antibiotic resistance. Again, 80% of all the antibiotics that are manufactured are used in animal agriculture. And so when antibiotics are given to an animal to either promote growth or prevent disease, and there are many laws in place now to prevent the use of antibiotics for growth promotion, we see that because of the continuous exposure in those populations, bacteria mutate and they form antibiotic resistance. Contaminates the meat. We consume the meat as a population and develop antibiotic resistance. And so many antibiotics that were once very useful in treating infectious diseases are no longer effective. And now we actually are seeing fungal infections that are not treatable with our current medications, which is a big problem. And so we're not recognizing the problems being created by the food production and our craving for meat as a population. Walter Willett, one of our most famous nutrition researchers from Harvard, published the Eat Lancet trial, 2019. The conclusion of his research, he said that transformation to healthy diets by 2050 will require a substantial dietary shift. We really need to change consumption of fruits and vegetables, and he said they need to double, and a consumption of foods such as red meat and sugar will need to be reduced by more than 50%. The plant-based diet with fewer animal foods confers greater health and environmental benefits. And so we can see that as the population begin requesting more plant-based foods, the agricultural industry would begin producing more foods and in a healthier way, which allows for the biologic systems to regenerate. And I'd just like to make a comment. This is my personal opinion based upon my experience in working with humans and other biologic systems, that the body rebounds more quickly than we might realize. Decades of impact, the presence of diseases, altered lab work, and in just weeks on a really healthy diet and lifestyle, the body begins to regenerate itself, reduce inflammation, and heal. And I sincerely believe that the earth is another biologic system that has the same capacity to regenerate itself more quickly than we might recognize. And that if we simply begin doing the right things, planting the right seeds, as we started at the beginning of this lecture, creating the right environmental change by changing the way that we grow and produce food, that our earth and its resources can actually regenerate more quickly than we might recognize. So while there's a lot of bad news looking at our environment and our resources and the land that we're handing off to the next generation, the hopeful message is that with the right choices, we can regenerate the earth and begin handing off in stewardship a healthier planet to the next generation. I just want to end with a few quick comments on lifestyle. Food is always the foundation, but the lifestyle components are also essential to being truly fully alive. Lead researcher Matt Walker from Stanford said this: based on probably about 10,000 research study papers now, the number of people who can survive on 6 hours of sleep or less and show no impairment, rounded to a whole number and expressed as a percent, is 0. So sleep is essential. And the research shows that we all need about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, ideally going to bed between 10 and 11 o'clock at night, so that we don't miss the regenerative peak, which happens overnight between 12 and 3 a.m. That's when our body begins to regenerate itself, our brain regenerates itself, our body goes into a reboot mode. There's actually a little spike of inflammation that happens overnight. And that spike happens overnight because inflammation is a part of the healing process. And it happens at night because we don't have a lot of other inflammation the body needs to deal with. But if our diet is unhealthy, if we eat late, if we miss the regenerative window, our bodies stay inflamed and we miss the regenerative opportunity for our cells to be rebuilt, restored, and our brain to be cleaned up and prepared for the next day. So don't miss a good night's sleep. Activity and exercise are important. And we see that the benefits of exercise are substantial. Inhibits tumor growth, overcomes the age-related loss of muscle, which largely that's muscle atrophy, but that's largely occurring actually because we stop exercising our muscles. We stop lifting weights. There's altered tumor metabolism. And again, exercise normalizes angiogenesis, restores hormonal balance, regulates the immune system. It modifies and strengthens our blood vessels. It improves our microbiome, reduces inflammation around the body, and it increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which again improves the connections and grows new connections in the brain. So adding some form of activity, at least 30 minutes, 5 times per week, is important. And I always recommend just find something you love to do and do it with all your gusto. Make sure you break a good sweat. But I also just want to highlight that it's important to do some active weightlifting and strengthening of the body. It maintains the bone strength, maintains the integrity of the muscles. It overcomes the sarcopenia, the loss of skeletal muscle as we get older, prevents falls, protects your joints from degeneration, protects your tendons from injury, like the rotator cuff. So it's really important to find a way to add in strength training to your routine on a regular basis. Mindfulness is important. Why? Because it decreases the stress hormone cortisol, and it reduces that sympathetic overactivity. Sympathetic is the fight or flight aspect of our nervous system, and mindfulness, deep breathing, which can be done relatively easily, 3 to 5 minutes a day to start, calms the entire nervous system and reduces cortisol secretion. And cortisol is related to a number of diseases, including disrupting the microbiome. Mindfulness increases your antibodies response to fight infections. It reduces CRP, or inflammation, and has a dramatic impact on our well-being. So if you're not doing mindfulness, just learn to put that into your practice, either in the morning, at lunch, or bedtime. Simple apps like Calm or Headspace can be used to practice mindfulness, just peaceful, deep breathing, an opportunity for your body to downregulate. Even practicing deep breathing during the day reduces cortisol secretion by 25%. Simple breathing at a stoplight will give you a lower level of cortisol and inflammation. Finally, gratitude. We hear a lot about gratitude, but it actually has a physiologic impact on our body. I'll just highlight these. That it activates the reward centers of the brain, increasing the release of the feel-good hormone dopamine and serotonin, and increases the feeling of bliss when we practice being grateful during our day. It enhances cognitive restructuring, reducing fear and anxiety. Again, gratitude reduces the effects of cortisol by at least 23%, lowers blood pressure, lowers inflammation, and lowers the lifetime risk of depression. Practicing gratitude and create maybe a lifestyle around gratitude facilitates improved sleep patterns, improves heart rate variability, which is again a stress measure, enables people to be more likely to exercise and eat healthier diets, improves relational trust, loyalty, and sustainability in relationships, enhances community connection, increases neuromodulation in the brain, and reduces guilt, shame, and violence. Incredible. So this is another one of those freebies that every day we can just get into the habit of being grateful for as many things as we see in our day, and focusing to be grateful rather than looking with a scarcity mindset or fear. So just in conclusion, I want to encourage you to, it's learning from your past, as we started with Maya Angelou. I did then what I knew how to do. We're learning, and we now do better. Live today with enthusiasm, be grateful, and envision tomorrow with great hope, because there's regenerative capacity in our plate in many places, in the habits and attitudes that we make each day. And then through that process of individuals making changes, all of you encouraging the people around you to make changes, both by your example and the things that you share, there's a multiplied effect that can create a world that is transformed through a powerful plate and a healthy lifestyle. You can begin turning back the clock and regenerate. Stephen Covey said this, that to learn and not to do is to not really learn, and to know and not do is really not to know. So it's incumbent on all of us as we learn to activate the information that we've learned and to put it into practice in a meaningful way so that our lives become the best testimony. Not the studies, they become supportive, but it's the vibrancy and the life that people see in us that makes people say, what are you doing? And then with joy, you can share with them what you're doing. So put this into practice, share it with people, first through your example, and then through programs like this amazing conference that they put together. And through the process of continuous improvement, we all get better. We have to realize that, we are actually stewarding resources in the planet for the next generation. And I like to always end with just a comment that, it's not about us. Our food choices are not just about us. Our lifestyle choices are not just about us, disease reversal, inflammation, turning on and off switches, etc. So much of those choices really go back to the idea that we are stewarding this planet and its resources for the next generation. And the potential and the power of making choices to eat delicious food that comes from regenerative systems and plants allows us daily through our 100 bites, through our 2 to 3 meals a day, to begin investing in a better world for the children that are following us. And then by sharing this information with people, we can begin impacting their lives and this next generation as well. So thank you for your time and attention. We've got a good 30 minutes, I think, for questions. This is my organization, the Plantrition Project, that I co-founded with my partners, Tom Dunham and Susan Benegas, to educate healthcare providers globally. There's some wonderful free resources on our website, plantritionproject.org, downloadable quick start guides. We have a school for healthcare professional students that it's free, called Plantrition University. We have a free journal, the International Journal of Disease Reversal and Prevention. And we're doing work globally to educate healthcare providers about the power of food to transform life. So I'll turn it back over. I'm here for any questions that you might have.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Stoll. That was great. So we're going to begin the Q&A portion. Just before we do, though, what would be, you put up the last slide that showed your organization. What's the website, and how would they get in contact with you if they wanted to?
Yeah, the website is www.plantrition, PLANTRICIAN, project.org.
Great, thank you. And can they get in contact with you through the website?
They absolutely can, yes. You can contact me through the website. Thank you for putting this up. This is all of our resources. We have a conference for healthcare providers, the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference. And you can find all of the resources there, including these free quick start guides that are in at least 6 languages that can be downloaded for free anywhere in the world.
Great. And for anybody who would like to ask the doctor a question, you can do so in Zoom. The instructions for how to do so are in chat. So, so you're the co-founder of Plantrition Project and the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference. What are the goals in first of all, what's wrong with the educational process of the healthcare system? And what gaps are you aiming to fill through these organizations?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, Michael. When we look at the healthcare education, it's not addressing the roots of our current disease problem. As I mentioned, the leading cause of death and disability is diet and secondarily lifestyle. And in the healthcare system, education today, we're getting 19 hours of education around nutrition, and none of that has to do with the roots of disease, using nutrition as a primary intervention to address disease. So there's a real disparity there between the need in the community and education. And it's largely because we have a different model of disease. We have this biomedical model where we've reduced things down into like single disease parts or single receptors, and we've gotten lost in the details, the granularity of disease, and we've just simply tried to tweak through medications those little receptors without stepping back and saying, well, why are those receptors altered? Why are we seeing that problem? Well, why is that system a problem? Where does that come from? Oh, it comes from the food and lifestyle that we're living. And we got lost in healthcare because of our fascination with compartmentalization, reduction, and receptors, and then the pharmaceutical industry solution for treating those problems with medications. Now, I don't want to just make sure sometimes medications are necessary and important. I'm not against medications. Sometimes medications save lives, like antibiotics. But when we're looking at lifestyle diseases, the solution is not a medication. The solution is the cause, which was an unhealthy lifestyle, and simply transforming that.
So, you pointed to different studies, and we've had a bunch of speakers talking, showing different studies. There doesn't seem to be a shortage of of research and knowledge that reinforces this. We've had a bunch of speakers, and they all have different sources. They've all come to it from a different way. None of them have come to it through learning about this stuff in their medical school. with all of this knowledge out there, which seems to be irrefutable, right? I mean, you have people like Dean Ornish and Dr. Esselstyn, who's literally were able to reverse the #1 killer in the United States. What is blocking the ability for this stuff to be recognized for the powerful game changer that it has the potential to be? Clearly, if this was in a pharmaceutical drug, this everyone would be taking it, right?
That's
So
right.
what are the hurdles? And then that's a general question. And then more specifically, what are the hurdles that you see with your organization in trying to get this word out?
Yeah, that's a really insightful question. And it's kind of a multifaceted problem. One is simply reimbursement in healthcare. There is no reimbursement for lifestyle medicine and nutritional education. There's lots of reimbursement for procedures, for high volume patient care, but to sit and reverse disease, the system does not reimburse healthcare providers or healthcare systems for that. That's a major hurdle. And once reimbursement becomes available to healthcare providers for lifestyle conditions, that will dramatically open up a new opportunity for healthcare to deliver lifestyle. That's number one. Number two, there's a large amount of money that's given to education through the pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies. And so that ends up driving kind of some preferential education in medical schools toward that reductionistic model of using pharmacologic medications to treat these diseases rather than lifestyle. There's also a gap that occurs because of the national board exam. Medical schools teach information that's included on the national board exam. And because there's no questions right now on the national board exam for this kind of lifestyle and plant-based nutrition, medical schools don't include that in the curriculum, which is very interesting. And the challenge to get information on the national board exam, it has to be created by a recognized medical society. And still to date, like the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has not reached that place where it's recognized in its ability to contribute questions to the national board exam. So it's like this kind of multiplied complex scenario. But the good news is we're going through the back door now. American College of Lifestyle Medicine has created special interest groups for medical school students. And we have a number of residencies, more than 100 residencies nationwide that are double board certified in lifestyle medicine and other medical specialties. We have the Plant Nutrition University, which I mentioned, our free platform for any healthcare professional student, from a health coach to a doctor to a dentist, physical therapist, et cetera, chiropractic. They can log on to our platform and begin taking courses, free courses, and learn in parallel to their allopathic education. Dr. Michael Clapper, through Moving Medicine Forward, is speaking on medical school campuses and Zoom. So there's lots of us working PCRM on the periphery to kind of go in through the backside to combat the problem on the front side until we can get that piece changed.
And do you see things starting to change with regard, you mentioned culture in the beginning, and I'll start off with the culture of the doctors, for example. Do you see the culture of doctors? Are they hungry for this information, or are they skeptical? What are you seeing?
Generally there's an uptick in interest and reception by healthcare providers. When I started this about 20 years ago, I saw a lot of crossed arms and stern faces when I would lecture at hospitals and medical schools. Today, there's a lot more interest and a lot warmer reception because I think people are starting to see more of the science and it's become more of a part of the general conversation in healthcare systems. So that's definitely a positive trend that I'm seeing. We still have a long way to go. I still see a lot of crossed arms and stern faces and not welcome in certain areas. And for healthcare too, I think because reimbursement is so difficult and doctors are so busy, it's difficult for them to think about changing the way they practice or learning something new because it impacts so many elements of their life to do this.
Great, thank you. Got a couple of people from the audience who'd like to ask you a question. Sharon K, please state where you're from and ask your question. Sharon?
Unmute. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Okay. Hi, I just wanted to thank you for the whole presentation, but a specific example. I raised all my kids in Midland, Texas, and have since moved to Lubbock, where I have been plant-based, whole food plant-based for 3 years, and I feel like I'm in the desert up here. And when you said Midland, which is just 2 hours away, has this coalition, I was just so excited. I've already emailed them about coming down to see what we can do. So I just so appreciate you for that. Oh my goodness. The other thing I wanted to ask was, I would have never known about them. Is there a directory anywhere where these kind of whole food plant-based projects are taking place where we could look? I travel all over the country to visit friends, and I would love to know about projects and things like this that are going on in specific areas. Do you know of anything like that?
That's a great question. And I don't know of a specific directory for kind of those projects. We have a directory at Plant Nutrition Project called Plant Nutrition Providers, which helps you locate healthcare providers in places all over the world that are plant-based. But I don't know of a directory to locate projects. I like that idea. I'll take it back to the team. It's a good idea, Sharon.
I was thinking about Nelson Campbell's. I just attended one of his retreats, and where the pods are, the Plant Pure pods, and and things like that are popping up everywhere, but we don't really know where they are. So yeah, I'd say go for it. Yeah.
It's a good idea. We have a map because I recommended last year. I just really felt like it was important to encourage people to start potlucks as a part of developing communities around the world where people can plug in and learn, because community is so important. So we have a map at Plant Nutrition Project with potlucks that are everywhere. I want to encourage everybody, if you've not started a potluck, I actually did it myself here in Nashville. I started a potluck because I wanted to build a community. But we have a growing map of all these potlucks, which are, community-wide, that allow people to connect in. But I'm thinking maybe, Sharon, we can start also including on there a list of, these projects that are going on, which might help people connect. So.
Well, yeah, I traveled through Nashville, and I'd love to be there for one of those potlucks.
That would be great.
So, anyway, you were doing great work. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. And so speaking about, well, actually, first of all, that is a great idea to aggregate all this information, because it's very challenging to navigate it. It's first you have to navigate all the nutritional information, and then you have to find community. So how do you, in your organization, seek to foster community and support?
Yeah, in my community, I work in a healthcare, just a small practice, a functional medicine practice where I do regenerative medicine, lifestyle medicine. And that's part of the reason that I started a potluck. As I looked around, and it was kind of disjointed, and I thought, at least, I can provide a network of people and opportunities for patients that I see to come and join a community, to try healthy food, to learn from other people, to find people that can provide support and accountability. And I was thinking of like the lowest cost and time commitment to do something, and a potluck seemed like the greatest idea. Not over-organized. Everybody brings something healthy. We actually had it last night in downtown Franklin, just south of Nashville. We had about 20 people, talked about plant-based nutrition. People shared testimonies. We enjoyed great food. People connected, and I found that's a really efficient way to start communities. They did the same in Midland, Texas as well. That was kind of a secret in Midland. They formed a potluck, and that brought together community leaders, eventually hospital administrators, the mayor. And through those potlucks, they started to form a lot of these ideas that transformed their community.
That's great. And when you first started to move your medical practice more into this kind of space where you're providing root cause prevention as opposed to just throwing pills at people. How did your patients respond to saying, hey, you really need to change what you're eating? And how did you overcome the challenges of people not wanting to take responsibility for their own health and thinking it's genetic and just wanting, a quick fix through a pill or some sort of procedure?
Yeah, it was, a lot of people that would come to see me had no idea they were going to get a inspirational lecture on nutrition. And through the years, I found that, a couple of things were really important. One was that, I lived what I was talking about. If I was telling somebody, about some kind of meal change, then I better be doing it myself. And then I could speak from experience. This is how I make my oatmeal in the morning. This is how I make my smoothie. Made a huge difference. Sharing my own personal experience. I also learned that sharing testimonials of other people was far more impactful than sharing science. If I led with a testimonial of somebody that was like them, that restored their quality of life, they were much more likely to receive some science. And I would only give them just this much, let them ask more questions than overload them with information. They were willing to engage in making some lifestyle changes because they were inspired. That inspiration makes a difference. We make decisions not based upon knowledge and information. We really make lifestyle changes because we're inspired and we see a different opportunity for ourselves in the future. So I really wanted to inspire people. And then I also just recognized that some people are not quite ready yet. And if they don't receive it, that's okay, because I get to see them again next month. And I'll share a little bit more. And they'll have to be coming back in 3 more months, and I'll share a little bit more. And I found that, being gentle and kind with people over time led to a lot of people making changes that I would never have guessed would be willing to do that.
Well, I was going to ask, can you share a story of a patient that was vehemently opposed to, or not open to, or seemingly not open to changing their lifestyle, and then over time they became more open to it, and then what was the results of their health transformation because of it?
Yeah, so this was kind of an interesting story. It just came to me. I was taking care of a patient. It was the wife of a gentleman that came with her to the first appointment. And I was talking to her about making a lifestyle change. And she was like warmly accepting, but not great. He was standing in the corner. He's like, I will never do that. And, he's like strong black leather coat, like had no interest in making changes. Next visit, I just shared a little bit more about what can happen. And I shared a story about somebody that had angina or chest pain and how they'd reversed it. I didn't know that he had the same condition. He didn't say anything. He came back 2 months later with his wife, who had made, 25 to 50% change in her diet, was doing a little bit better. He had gone full in between, really? Made a radical change in his diet. He went from like being barely able to walk to the mailbox without having chest pain. He would carry nitroglycerin to the mailbox in case he had chest pain on the way. And he was walking 3 miles. He felt great. He lost all this weight. His wife said, I don't know what happened to him. He's like whipping up these vegetable dishes in the kitchen. He never liked to cook. So, it's a great story because something clicked and he was inspired, and he did it, even though he said he would never make that change.
No, that's an amazing story. So you mentioned food pharmacy. Where is food pharmacy? Like, where is this happening? Is this happening through a hospital that's doing this?
Yeah, that was all done at Geisinger Health several years ago. And they published peer-reviewed studies. It was published in the Harvard Business Journal. And it was a collaboration with the hospital, local food banks, and some of the grocery stores to provide. They actually provided 2 to 3 meals a day for those individuals for an entire year, because they believe that, by at least providing the food for that population that had food insecurity, they could really guarantee they were getting healthy food. And, you saw the savings cost from $240,000 a year to $48,000 a year. And they spent, $24,000, $30,000 a year on food. So it's tremendous investment, return on investment. And they had healthier patients. And because of the success of that at Geisinger Health, which is kind of northwest New Jersey and northeast Pennsylvania, they started to add some more of those food pharmacies inside of their healthcare system.
And is that a hospital facility, or is that the insurance company, or are they kind of have a synergy between insurance and?
Geisinger Health is a healthcare system
Okay.
and a hospital. And
the reason I ask is it's one of the things that when you talk to enough people about this, there's obviously a profit margin, and it's hard for a system that makes money off of people being sick to make them well and then undermine their own ability to exist. So I'm really inspired, we'll say, by the food pharmacy. So if we can go to Joe W., please state where you're from and ask your question. Joe?
Yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. So
Joe?
Is that me? Can you hear me?
Good, there's an echo, but go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Doctor, so a practical and two academic questions. Fiber, is it best can we take it in the morning and at night in pills, or is it better to eat with each meal to speed elimination with the food as it's digested? And since whole food plant-based reverses disease, can we say eating anything other than whole food plant-based causes disease? And though you said we all may need medications, don't all drugs have side effects? And can we say drugs cause disease?
Okay, so we'll tackle fiber first. The beautiful thing about just eating plants, the 10 servings of fruits and vegetables we talked about in all those studies, the plants all come with fiber. And so your breakfast, lunch, and dinner are fiber. You don't have to worry about including them or adding fiber or taking fiber. And the best fiber is the fiber that comes from plants, because again, just like we talked about protein and how your protein's packaged, the same could be said of fiber. If you're getting fiber from Muse, one of the packaged brands of fiber, or you're getting it from plants, you're actually getting all of the phytochemicals, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals in your fiber when it comes from plants, versus something that you're just spooning into a drink. So eating, working towards 10 servings of plants a day, you get all the fiber that you need, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it helps, as you said, with elimination. So that's the best way to do that. I'm going to go to the last question next on drugs causing disease. So you're right that most drugs, the vast majority, have some degree of side effect, and some are very mild and are not negative. Some are very significant, but are drugs causing disease? So, largely the cause of disease goes beyond drugs, but drugs can be disruptors of systems in some way, and can cause disruptions that lead to, other symptoms. But most diseases at the root go all the way back to, again, it's environmental exposures. It's the food that we eat. It's the stress that we carry. It's the lack of inactivity. It's the poor sleep. It's toxins in our environment that are the primary disruptors of the systems in the body that contribute to the formation of disease. I do want to point out that sometimes drugs are necessary because people don't make lifestyle changes, and they do keep people alive. If somebody has type 2 diabetes and they refuse to make a lifestyle choice, they really do need to have their blood sugar managed with metformin in order to avoid retinopathy, blindness, kidney disease, amputations. So in that way, those drugs are beneficial and actually save their life because it slows down the impact of the disease. If you get a pneumonia, take antibiotics to avoid dying from pneumonia. So that's really important. And then, Joe, just remind me the middle question again.
So if whole food plant-based reverses disease, can we say eating anything other than causes disease?
Yeah, I think if you look at the longitudinal impact of plant-based nutrition, it largely has the greatest opportunity to prevent and reverse disease. It's interesting because there are some studies coming out, ketogenic diets and carnivore diets, where they show, what they would say is disease remission in type 2 diabetes. And they would argue right now that our diet also reverses disease. But I think what's important is that, we go beyond the 6 or 12-week study in some of those diets and follow people to see what happens if you're eating that diet for a long period of time. In fact, one of the doctors that was probably the most vocal and prominent doctors recommending a carnivore diet actually had to stop eating this carnivore diet after 5 years because he was acquiring so many physical problems, joint pain, kidney issues. And he was a huge advocate for the carnivore diet, reversing disease. And early on, he's very muscular. He said, this is like, I feel great. But as he got out into that, 4 or 5 year period where the cumulative effect of his diet, the cumulative effect of inflammation began undermining his health, he recognized that, he may have seen initial benefits, but that diet actually was undermining his health because, as we talked about in this lecture, there's a chronic exposure to free radicals and inflammation, disruption of systems, which takes time to build until you reach a tipping point where disease manifests itself.
Going back to my question on drugs, I think drugs are the 3rd or 4th largest cause of death in the United States. Doesn't that indicate that drugs cause disease?
Yeah, well, it's, part of that is actually medication errors in hospitals, where it's the improper dosing, it's excessive dosing, it's allergies. So yes, in that way, and that, that would be medical errors causing disease. But drugs, they are at some level, because we're only doing one thing in the body. We realize that, the body is infinitely complex. We can't do just one thing without impacting the body in some other way. Ozempic is a great example. We think that we're simply changing hunger signals by impacting the GL1P receptor. In reality, what we're doing is we're impacting systems globally. And now we're just starting to see some of the long-term challenges of these drugs, like loss of skeletal muscle and that's replaced with fat, impact on cognitive function over time. And so those, your comments are right, Joe, that we can't do just one thing with the medication. It disrupts the entire system at some level. And we have to be very careful and modulate the use of drugs. But there are drugs that do slow down disease processes, like metformin for people with type 2 diabetes, and gives them time to actually make a lifestyle choice. Because if they didn't do that and their blood sugars were really high, they can have all kinds of complications, including death at a very young age. So, but it's a very good comments, Joe. I appreciate that.
Great, thanks. And actually, Michael Greger, just real quickly, because we're pretty much done with our time. Michael Greger has a video on medication, and he talks about that the medications and that all the deaths associated with it are associated with properly prescribed, properly administered drugs. So that it may be worth checking out if you're interested. So, well, thank you so much for all the awesome information that you shared with us tonight. It was great information. Really appreciate your perspective. So if we can unmute the audience, please.
Little shut down.
Thank you.
My father.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
After school,